All right, everyone, we have some big news today. Dan Niles, a very respected technology investor, just took Google off of his top 5 stock picks for 2022. So we're going to get into this article right now and go into why this happened. I saw this happen last night, and I was really surprised when I discovered this on Twitter because Google is one of those stocks that I've been waiting for to fall a little bit more, and I've been waiting to really dip my toes in. But after reading this article, it gave me a little bit more of a different perspective, and the numbers in this article I think are incredibly important. So let's read some of the basic numbers here. In 2021, Google reached $258 billion in revenue, which was 29%, basically 30% of the entire advertising industry globally. Google owned that market, while Facebook had 118 billion, 13% of the total ad industry. So the ad market is about 900 billion. Let's call it a trillion. Google and Facebook own about 33%, about 42%, 29 plus 13 of the entire ad market, which is absolutely insane over the past 12 years. Now, during the Great Recession of 2008 to 2009, Google revenue was only 24 billion, or 3% of the entire ad industry, and Facebook was 777 million, which was 0.5% of the entire ad industry in 2009. Why is this relevant, and why does this matter? In 2008 and 2009, when we were having an economic recession and Google and Facebook were strong advertising giants, but not as strong as the biggest television companies in the world. The internet was still growing. Digital advertising on the internet was still growing. Search algorithms and data to target that advertising was growing exponentially in terms of Facebook's social graph. Facebook didn't have 3.6 billion users yet, which means there was a lot of room to grow in terms of their businesses and their companies to be able to innovate and really build out meaningful advertising businesses that investors could appreciate on the upside. That is not necessarily the case anymore. Now, the reason that's not the case anymore is because things have changed, and we're going to talk about how things have changed a little bit later. Now, this paragraph says, but both traditional and digital ad spending is likely to get hit over the next 18 months during a recession. During the 2008-2009 recession, U.S. ad spending declined by 6% in 2008 and 18% in 2009. So when we saw the recession, there was a decline in different ad spend, and that makes sense because when you have a recession, advertising is one of the first budgets to go. This decline for 2 consecutive years last occurred in 1940. Digital ad spending, however, was up slightly in 2008 and only mid-single digits in 2009. So even during that recession, digital ad spend still went up a little bit. Now, Dan Niles says, I believe history has skewed people's view of the resiliency of the online ad market. Google, in fact, saw revenues increase by 31% in 2008 and 9% in 2009. The much smaller Facebook saw revenues grow 78% and 186%. So already you're thinking, okay, this is positive because even when the market crashes and the recession happens, advertising and digital advertising in particular may not totally crap the bed. The launch of the iPhone in January of 2007 also helped shift viewing habits online, as you could essentially surf the internet from anywhere versus from just your PC. This drove even more ad dollars. The reason for this is because instead of having to stay on your computer and to consume advertising, now you have this supercomputer in your pocket where you can consume ads from all over the world or all over, wherever you go, which just means there's more chances to target you with your eyeballs. Now, why is Dan Niles skeptical then about Google if it performed better in 2008 and 2009? Well, there's a couple of reasons. We thought Google should have been able to outperform the overall market even during a 30 to 50% decline in the S&P during the recession. Because of the reasonable market valuations and their focus on future innovations. However, we believe the dollars available to all online ad companies going forward, including Google, will be less than what we originally thought, which is why the entire thesis has shifted. Now, here are the reasons for why this is shifting. Number one, TikTok did $4 billion in revenue in 2021 and projects to do $12 billion in 2022, which means that's $12 billion because you have a new entry into the market that is taking away eyeballs and ad spend from the behemoth that was Google. Remember, Google had 30% of the entire ad market. Now you've got TikTok in the mix. So at that point, that's just less money going to Google. Amazon did $31 billion in ad revenues. Those Amazon ads where you type in something on Amazon for a product and then a sponsored product comes up, they made $31 billion off of that in 2021. That's excluding AWS and the retail business and Prime Video and all that stuff. It's just off the ad revenue, which means that money is not going to Google or Facebook as well. Apple did $4 billion in revenue. And that's up over 3x in 2021, primarily driven by privacy changes. So if you have a consumer app and you're like, okay, I'm going to target Facebook so people can download my app, you're like, well, Facebook ad targeting sucks because Apple screwed them over on the privacy stuff. So I'm going to go to the Apple App Store and give Apple those ad dollars in order to get people to download the app. So Apple's taking away some money. And now Netflix. Netflix has just launched an advertising tier in partnership with Microsoft. This could come before the year end, which could be a big drain in ad dollars given they have over 20% of the US streaming audience share, which means a lot of ad dollars might go into Stranger Things and Squid Game over Google search. Now, Netflix on the margin tipped it for us for Google recommendation, as some people will switch to a cheaper ad-supported tier during the recession. I'm actually thinking of doing this. I don't know why I would pay for Netflix when you could just watch the ads when I barely watch Netflix, so that may happen as well. We've already seen the damage TikTok has caused for Facebook, and this is a fair bit of ad inventory that could potentially be added to the market. Now, the other thing they said is that the world is opening up. So if the world is opening up more and people are going out and doing things in the world with leisure and travel activities that they were not doing during the pandemic, which is why YouTube ad revenue exploded, because everyone was on YouTube and consuming content on YouTube and searching things on Google, which means there was just so much more traffic on the internet per the pandemic over the past year and a half that is gone because people are now leaving, which is likely why the monetization opportunities for Google are going down. So there's 4 core reasons. An impending recession where all stocks will go down, especially technology stocks. That's one reason why Google is not one of their stock picks. Number 2, online advertising shares at TikTok, Amazon, and the newest Netflix advertising tier, and less time spent by consumers online as they engage in travel and leisure activities. So they think that the street consensus of 34% revenue growth at Google and 22% at Facebook over the next few years is optimistic, to say the least. Now, the good thing about this article is that it ends in a pretty bullish respect. They say at some point in 2023, when the market hits its ultimate bottom, Google will be one of the first names we buy for the long-term growth, given their culture of innovation, solid cash generation, and reasonable multiples compared to their long-term growth potential, which makes a lot of sense to me. So at the end of the day, like, Google is still a stock you probably want to buy for the long term. I mean, it's one of those things where search engines are not going away. One of the interesting things to also think about is that the senior vice president of Google came out 2 days ago and said that they are noticing 40% less search traffic for travel and food going to Instagram and TikTok. Meaning when you're looking for food near me, if you guys ever typed in near me on Google, I do that all the time. Instead of looking for burger places or pizza places near me, people go on TikTok and they search that. And I didn't expect that at all, because I barely search things like that on TikTok and Instagram. I see them as search engines, but not for the same type of specificity that I get from something like a Google. But that traffic is going away to different platforms from Gen Z. So if you've got that traffic going away, you've got all the different things that are happening in terms of the macro economy, it kind of makes sense for Dan Niles, who's a huge technology investor, to basically say, yeah, maybe Google isn't the company we want to have in 2022, but when they bottom in 2023, that may be when that happens. Now, that is kind of timing when it happens. So if you want to be safe, obviously you would DCA into Google. But it is an interesting thing to think about. I mean, the idea that TikTok, Amazon, and now Netflix are all gunning for these ad dollars, not to mention you already got Facebook here and Apple, it does take away a little bit from the overall money and the sort of monopoly that Google would have on the advertising market in general. So those are my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Is Google going to be okay? Are they going to have ad revenue increase, or are they going to have to deal with other companies actually taking away a little bit of their ad revenue? Let me know your thoughts. Thank you guys for listening. I'll see you in the next one.